Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
President Trump announced on Truth Social yesterday that Kristi Noem, the head of the Department of Homeland Security, wasn't going to be running DHS anymore.
President Trump has just announced that Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem is out of a job.
The news seemed to catch many by surprise, including Trump's pick to replace Noem, Oklahoma Senator Markwayne Mullin.
I've got to be honest with you, I wasn't expecting the call today.
At the time of the post, Noem was at a law enforcement event in Nashville to deliver a keynote address.
Good afternoon, everybody. How are you?
Her presentation came and went without a single mention of the news that she had been fired and was getting another role as special envoy for a new security initiative.
God bless you, and may God continue to bless our great country. Have a great day.
The shakeup didn't come entirely out of the blue. Earlier in the week, Noem faced 2 intense days of grilling before the House and Senate Judiciary Committees about alleged misconduct during her tenure at DHS. There was a lot that lawmakers from both parties wanted to discuss, including the killing of 2 American citizens by immigration enforcement in Minnesota. But there was one issue that really got Trump's attention: an ad campaign.
I'm Kristi Noem, the United States Secretary of Homeland Security. Thank you, President Donald J. Trump, for securing our border, for deporting criminal illegal immigrants, and for putting America first. President Trump...
Trump didn't explain why he fired her, but we know that she was all over the news about how he was handling the agency, and both sides were not happy with her answers.
Senator John Kennedy from Louisiana singled this ad campaign out, right? Grilled her about why she initiated the campaign, how the contracts were awarded, whether she actually received consent and approval from the president before she heavily featured herself.
Irene Sanchez Casado and Eric Fan worked together to report new details of this ad campaign.
And I remember her answer at the time was, the campaign has been very effective. We did everything by the books. And President Trump asked me to do this. And after that, there were reports that Trump denied having instructed her to conduct the campaign this way. And that seemed to be one of the core reasons that she was fired.
I'm Sarah Holder, and this is The Big Take from Bloomberg News. Today on the show, Bloomberg's investigation into the $240 million ad campaign that helped cost Kristi Noem her job at DHS, and what impacts the ads actually had. So I want to go back in time to about a year ago when this ad campaign actually kicked off. What did these ads look and sound like? Can you describe them for me?
Sure. We have 2 types of ads, right? Like ones that are actually pushing people to self-deport.
President Trump has a clear message for those that are in our country illegally. Leave now. If you don't, we will find you, and we will deport you.
These ads are saying, it's like, if you leave this country, we're going to give you this statement that is going to help you to relocate. If not, we're going to chase you. You're not going to be able to come back. And the images show mostly Latino immigrants. And then we have another set of ads that are focused on ICE recruitment.
In too many cities, dangerous illegals walk free as police are forced to stand down. Join ICE and help us catch the worst of the worst with bonuses up to $50,000 and generous benefits.
So we have 2 very distinctive ads: self-deportation and ICE recruitment.
And there's been a lot of talk about how much DHS was committing to spend on that ad campaign, $240 million, though not all of that has been spent yet. How does that amount of funding compare to other ad campaigns that have been run by the federal government?
It is by far the largest ad marketing campaign in DHS history and among the largest across all federal agencies. If you look at the numbers, it's only behind the DOD, so the military, and the COVID ads.
And so the government was spending a massive amount of money on these ads that were pushing immigrants in the U.S. to leave the country, that were trying to get new ICE agents to join the agency. I want to talk about how these ads ended up on the air. And I want to break this down into two parts. First, how a government ad campaign would normally work, and next, how this campaign worked. So, of course, DHS doesn't make these ads in-house. They work with private companies. How do they pick which companies they work with? What processes do they have to go through?
So usually when you have a federal contract, you have a standard procurement process where you open up the bid, right? You have some requirements, you have some project to do, and you welcome the private contractors to come in and submit their proposals. And whoever can do the job the cheapest and the best will receive the work. So that's a full and open competitive process. That was not what happened in this case because the DHS under Kristi Noem handpicked 4 companies that this is according to their own document to bid on this process.
This is a public document released by DHS, which used this border emergency declared by Trump to justify the agency's move to bypass full and open competition.
And only 3 of them actually made the bid, and 2 of them were selected. But according to public records, all 3 companies are very tightly connected to either DHS officials or Trump campaign advisors. So the entire process also happened very, very quickly. The first ad was aired just about a month after Trump's inauguration. And everything was justified because Trump declared a national emergency at the southern border, which allows these contracts to bypass full competitive bidding.
Tell us a little bit about the companies that they chose.
So we have 2 main companies that appear on federal procurement records. One is People Who Think, and the other is Safe American Media. Safe American Media got more than $142 million. And what is very interesting is this company didn't exist 8 days before getting this huge contract.
And what our investigation reveals is they then subcontract most of the work to other more established companies.
Right. Safe America Media subcontracts with these media buyers who then place the TV ads. Let's talk about the other main company that was contracting with DHS, People Who Think LLC. What did you find out about them?
Right, so People Who Think received a slightly smaller contract compared to Safe America Media to execute an international version of the deportation ads campaign. This company is linked to Corey Lewandowski, Kristi Noem's top aide. It was co-founded by a former Trump campaign media advisor who worked on his 2016 campaign.
Lewandowski had overlaps with both of these companies, right? You reported that in the past, Lewandowski had worked on the same political ad campaigns as People Who Think, and he'd worked on political ad campaigns with media buyers that were hired by Safe America Media. And there's also been reporting about this other company involved in the DHS ad campaign, which was run by Ben Yoho, the husband of former DHS Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin. Why do all these linkages matter? What's significant about all these ties?
What seems very problematic here is the agency bypassed a full competitive bid process, right? It was DHS who decided the companies that will be able to work on this, all without any kind of transparency of why they choose those companies, why they were better than others.
Was there anything that they said that explained what went into their choice of contractors?
They didn't really explain why they choose those contractors, but they seem very happy with their results. I think one of the phrases that we got from them is it's pretty clear that we have made a good selection because this campaign is being widely successful. That's how they somehow justify the companies working on this campaign.
They also said they did everything by the book. They said career officials managed the process. But when we asked them, did Kristi Noem personally approve those contracts? Because they had a press release last year that Noem personally approves everything about $100,000 to save taxpayer money. They confirmed that Noem and the White House Budget Office approved the contracts. Of course, when we asked them about the connections to Lewandowski, to To other Trump advisors, they didn't respond.
And how did the companies involved respond to your reporting?
Save America Media, the lead winner of the contract, we couldn't find them. A lot of our colleagues have tried, other news outlets have tried, but it appears that they don't have an office, don't have a website, don't have an email address, don't have a phone number. The only clue we had was this residential home owned by this Republican media consultant, and we went to that home.
You knocked on the door?
We knocked on the door. We slipped our letters, in.
We got actually finally a phone number and an email for this consultant. We sent our questions. He never answered. And same for people who think. We sent a letter, we sent an email, we called them multiple times, and we never got a response.
So what kind of impact did this pricey DHS ad campaign have? That's next. Irene, Eric, in addition to looking at which companies were being paid to make and place these ads for the Department of Homeland Security, you also looked at where these ads were running and who might have been seeing them. So, Eric, what data did you look at to figure this out?
So to figure out where the ads are running, how they're being targeted at different populations and audiences, we used Ad Impact data, which is a ad tracking company. In total, we found over 92,000 ads aired across the country in all 50 states, over 1,000 TV stations. And this is only broadcast, right? There are also digital TV, there's cable TV, there are other formats. And these ads are absolutely everywhere, right? And the deportation ads, they are mostly targeted at the border states in the south and sanctuary cities in the north. And what we found was the targeting was not always consistent. For example, Georgia has a lot more undocumented immigrants compared to Nevada and Arizona. This is according to the DHS own estimates. However, the two western states were bombarded by deportation ads where Georgia was largely ignored.
I think that what those numbers show is like there's a disconnection between where those ads were aired and where DHS own estimates said that there are more illegal or undocumented immigrants, right?
If you look at the market, the media market that they target, the recruitment versus deportation, Georgia is a prime example. That they are under-targeted by deportation ads, but over-targeted by ICE recruitment commercials. One commercial that specifically called out Atlanta police officers ran over 1,000 times between September 29 and October 13, proclaiming, quote, "You took an oath to protect and serve, but in sanctuary cities, you're ordered to stand down where dangerous illegals walk free." And it's worth noting that there is a Georgia law that mandates local police officers to cooperate with ICE. And in fact, Trump's own Justice Department removed Atlanta from their list of sanctuary cities. So it's unclear to us why this ad that's super targeted at recruiting Atlanta police officers still said Atlanta was a sanctuary city, even after the administration's own Justice Department had removed the city from the list.
What does your analysis say about how effective they've been according to the metrics that the administration laid out? Let's start by talking about the ICE recruitment ads.
So in order to better understand what was the impact of this campaign that is specifically targeting local police officers, we asked every police department at the top of our list. And what we heard from Miami, for instance, like they haven't been affected. Denver said the same to us, like we are not losing officers that are leaving to join ICE. And then the three other police agencies didn't respond. Or they said, we don't know if our officers that are actually leaving are leaving to join ICE forces. So it's unclear how effective is this campaign that is trying to convince local officers to join ICE.
The department does put out a press release saying that the recruitment campaign went above expectation. They doubled the ICE officers' workforce, that it's been wildly successful. They did not respond to our question how much of that success can be attributed to the ad campaign. What's interesting about the ICE recruitment ads is it seems to have avoided all the Spanish-speaking TV stations. And what former police chiefs and other experts have told us was historically, both ICE and CBP had made intentional efforts to recruit Spanish-speaking officers given their work and the need to interact with undocumented immigrants, a lot of whom speak Spanish.
I want to talk about the self-deportation ads as well. What impact have these ads had on immigrants who might be considering leaving the country and on their communities who are seeing these ads?
The DHS claims over 2 million quote-unquote illegal aliens had left the country last year. But experts said that number is likely a misinterpretation of survey data, that the real figures likely sit between 200,000 to 400,000. So we're talking about undocumented immigrants who are leaving as a result of this marketing campaign. And it's actually very hard to estimate the precise number. What the experts are saying is there are two factors at work here, right? It is possible that a lot of immigrants get scared and they hear this message and they are persuaded to leave. It's equally likely that a lot of them are persuaded to stay because they figure it will be harder to return once they leave under the current environment. What the experts told us was the vast majority of reduction in immigration that took place last year was the result of reduced inflow, meaning that much fewer people received visas to come in or cross the border because they were discouraged under the administration policies.
We have done a lot of reporting, talking with immigration counselors, organizations, but also immigrants, both like documented and undocumented. And what we have here is like this campaign has created a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety. They have been feeling targeted. They felt that this is racist, the way that, this is framed. And what we have here is that this is especially problematic for kids that have been exposed to this kind of content. And they ask their parents, are you illegal? Are you a criminal? We have here also about instances where children have been arrested because of this campaign. So we know that it's creating fear, anxiety, not sure, if many people are convinced to leave. But what we know is like at least they're really suffering from the content of this campaign.
So in that way, these ads could have had a profound impact on some families. When did these ads get on the radar of lawmakers? And in what context did this issue come up in the congressional hearings?
Back in March 2025, Benny Thompson, ranking member on the House Committee on Homeland Security, asked Kristi Noem office to provide all documentation and exchanges about this campaign. DHS never replied to Benny Thompson, who sent another request back in November asking for the same documents, any kind of communication related to the campaign. DHS didn't reply. In November, also, we saw a couple of letters from senators. We have like a set of different Congress people, lawmakers, asking about the campaign multiple times. And DHS never responded to their questions about how this campaign started, how DHS picked the companies, how effective it was, and what was the involvement of some of Trump administration officials on picking the companies running those campaigns. We know that for the last couple of days, she was really being the center of attention during those hearings. I think her leadership was being questioned. I think she didn't provide the answers that convince, even Trump.
Especially Senator John Kennedy from Louisiana, that exchange where he singled this ad campaign out.
How do you square that concern for waste, which I share, with the fact that you have spent $220 million running television advertisements that feature you prominently?
Sir, the president tasked me with getting the message out to the country and to other countries where we were seeing the invasion come from, with putting commercials out that told them...
He quibbled that the campaign was effective in promoting your own image. Kristi Noem personally, she was heavily featured. All the deportation ads were narrated by Noem herself. She was very prominent. She was in front of the camera most of the ad.
At Mount Rushmore.
One of them at Mount Rushmore, she was on a horse. And in almost all the deportation ads, she thanked Trump or complimented the president's immigration policy. And so you have Kristi Noem personally very prominent in them. You have TV footage of aggressive ICE tactics on the street. And you have President Trump signing bills, walking to meetings, saluting to officers, with Noem complimenting and thanking the president for his leadership.
So, Eric, what you're saying is, these ads were not only effective in raising Kristi Noem's profile, but perhaps they were effective in raising Trump's as well.
Yes, I mean, that was Noem's argument at the hearing. She said the president wanted me to do these ads and thank him in these ads, and that's exactly what she did. She thanked the president in pretty much every one of the deportation ads.
What do we know about how the president reacted to her claim that he had signed off?
What we know is apparently he denied, or at least he didn't recall that happening the same way that Kristi Noem described it.
Allegedly, Senator Kennedy had this conversation with the president, after which he said Noem is dead as a fried chicken.
This is The Big Take from Bloomberg News. I'm Sarah Holder. The show is hosted by me, David Gura, and Juan Ha. The show is made by Aaron Edwards, David Fox, Eleanor Harrison Dengate, Patty Hirsch, Rachel Lewis-Kriski, Naomi Ng, Julia Press, Tracy Samuelson, Naomi Shavin, Alex Sugiura, Julia Weaver, Yang Yang, and Taka Yasuzawa. To get more from The Big Take and unlimited access to all of Bloomberg.com, subscribe today at Bloomberg.com/podcast offer. Thanks for listening. We'll be back on Monday.